The message appeared just as the plane's wheels kissed the Atlanta runway. "We're too busy today. Just call an Uber." My daughter-in-law's words, sharp as the surgeon's scalpel that had nearly ended me 3 weeks earlier. Then, my son added his reprimand. "Why don't you ever plan in advance?" Mom, and something inside me cracked. Not my newly repaired heart, but the part that still believed family meant unconditional love. Around me, passengers laughed and hurried off to reunions. I sat alone in a terminal chair, clutching a carry-on that held 3 weeks of hospital gowns, discharge papers, and a fragile new lease on life. The surgery in Cleveland had given me barely a 60% chance of surviving another Christmas. I'd gone alone, telling my son and his wife that it was a routine procedure. I didn't want to worry them, I'd told myself. In truth, I hadn't wanted to test just how little space I still occupied in their busy lives. For years, I'd been the invisible support beam widowed at 49, babysitting their kids, while Diana climbed the corporate ladder at Meridian Pharmaceuticals, contributing $80,000 toward their suburban dream home. I had given everything I could. And this was my reward, an Uber suggestion. When my hands stopped shaking, I opened another message thread, the one labeled Dr. E. Harrison Wells. He had been the first cardiologist to review my case months ago before referring me to Cleveland. We'd spoken often in those early weeks, his voice calm, intelligent, unexpectedly kind. I typed, "I know you're in Switzerland for your son's birthday, but I just landed in Atlanta and seem to be having some transportation issues. Don't worry, I'll manage. Hope you're enjoying the celebration." I sent it, expecting nothing. The phone rang almost instantly. Pamela came, that familiar Boston-tinged baritone. "Where exactly are you?" I blinked. "Terminal B? Stay there. I'm at Terminal C. My flight from Zurich just landed. I'll pick you up." I thought I'd misheard him. But 15 minutes later, a black Bentley pulled to the curb, gleaming like a promise. The driver introduced himself as Samuel. Then Harrison appeared, tall, silver-haired, immaculate in casual elegance. "You look pale," he said, taking my hand in both of his. "How did the surgery go?" "About as well as could be expected," I murmured. "I'm still here." His eyes softened. "I'm glad of that. Come, you shouldn't be struggling with ride shares and strangers. Let us take you home." The gesture undid me more than I expected. After weeks, surrounded by sterile walls and indifferent nurses, his warmth was almost unbearable. I slipped my hand into the crook of his arm and let him lead me to the car. As the Bentley glided through traffic, I tried to hide my exhaustion. He studied me quietly, those blue eyes, too perceptive. "You didn't answer my text earlier," he said gently. "Why wasn't your family there to meet you?" "They're busy," I said, staring out at the skyline. "Work campaigns, deadlines." I didn't want to disrupt things. He frowned. "A life-threatening operation isn't a disruption, Pamela. It's a wake-up call." I had no answer for that. I'd spent 67 years avoiding being anyone's burden, mistaking self-erasure for kindness. When the car pulled into my modest driveway, embarrassment fluttered through me. My furniture was clean, but dated, the decor simple. Yet Harrison moved through my home with unfeigned interest, admiring the watercolor my late husband and I had bought decades ago, the quilt my grandmother had stitched by hand. "You have warmth here," he said. "A home should feel lived in, not staged." While Samuel fetched groceries on Harrison's orders, "You need proper nutrition, not frozen dinners." The doctor made tea in my kitchen, like it was the most natural thing in the world. My mother swore a proper cup could cure anything short of amputation, he said, with a smile. The simple domesticity of watching him search my cupboards felt surreal. My phone buzzed on the counter. 48 missed calls, 32 texts, all from Philip and Diana. Harrison noticed my expression. Bad news. I hesitated before showing him the screen. The messages were frantic. Is that really Dr. Wells? How do you know him? Call us immediately. Not one asked about my health. A social media alert explained why. Harrison had posted a photo an hour earlier, me stepping into his Bentley, his hand steadying my arm. The caption read, "Honored to assist my friend Pamela Hayes home after her courageous cardiac surgery." A remarkable woman. The post had thousands of likes. And one comment from Diana Reynolds, "Dr. Wells, that's my mother-in-law. We've been trying to reach you about Meridian's Cardio Restore project." I turned to him. Did you know she worked for Meridian? He set a teacup before me, expression unreadable. Let's say her reputation preceded her. And now it seems she's realized we're acquainted. A small, knowing smile. Your phone will be busy for a while. Shall we silence it and enjoy our tea? By the time he and Samuel left that evening, my refrigerator was stocked. My medications neatly arranged, and I felt cared for in a way I hadn't in years. His parting words echoed long after the Bentley disappeared down the street call, anytime, day or night. The next morning, my doorbell rang. Philip and Diana stood there looking both polished and anxious. "Mom," my son exclaimed, "why didn't you answer your phone?" "I was resting," I said calmly. "Doctor's orders after cardiac surgery." Cardiac Diana blinked. "You said it was minor." I moved back to my armchair. "Minor in that I survived it." Philip frowned. "Why didn't you tell us it was so serious?" "Would it have mattered?" I asked quietly. "You were too busy to pick me up afterward. Would knowing the odds have changed that?" They had no answer. Diana regrouped, first eyes bright with calculation. "Dr. Wells seems very attentive," she said. "You never mentioned being such close friends." "We met through my consultation," I said evenly. "He's a compassionate physician, compassionate enough to post about you publicly." Her tone sharpened. His endorsement could mean everything for Meridian's new cardiovascular program. "So that's why you're here," I murmured. "Not to check on my health, but to leverage a connection." Philip looked stricken. "That's not fair." "No," I said, "what's unfair is realizing my worth to this family only rises when I have something useful to offer." Silence fell heavy. Diana's composure cracked for just a second before she stood. "We should let you rest." As they left, my phone vibrated again, Harrison's name on the screen. "Dinner tomorrow. I know a place with a perfect cardiac-friendly menu. Samuel will pick you up at 700 p.m. I smiled for the first time in weeks. "I'm afraid I have plans tomorrow evening," I told my son. "Perhaps another time." When the Bentley returned the next night, Harrison stepped out in a dark suit that made him look impossibly distinguished. "You look lovely," he said, as Samuel opened the door for me. "That color suits you." At the restaurant, candlelight flickered against glass and steel. "Why did you respond to my text?" I asked once we were seated. "You must have dozens of patients." He studied me thoughtfully. "Because some patients remind me why I became a doctor, to heal not just the heart, but the loneliness around it." Something fragile and long dormant stirred within me. For the first time since Thomas died, I felt visible again. The following weeks unfolded like a quiet miracle. Every evening brought a message or call from Harrison, sometimes about my recovery, sometimes simply to ask what I'd eaten or whether the jasmine in my garden had started to bloom. His attention never felt clinical. It felt human. And for the first time in years, I began to look forward to mornings, to dressing with care, to anticipating the possibility of companionship rather than enduring the weight of solitude. Then came the evening he invited me to the Claremont, a private dining club renowned for its discretion and taste. I hesitated before agreeing. You realize I said on the phone that my wardrobe consists mostly of sensible cardigans and discount store slacks. Then allow me to solve that, he replied warmly. Samuel and a stylist will bring some options. Consider it part of your cardiac rehabilitation doctor's orders. I laughed, despite myself. True to his word, by the following afternoon, Samuel arrived with what looked like an entire boutique's collection. The emerald gown Margot, the stylist, insisted on, shimmered subtly under the light, transforming my silver hair into something striking rather than merely aged. When I saw my reflection, I hardly recognized the woman in the mirror. You're not apologizing for taking up space tonight, Margot said. You're claiming it. When the doorbell rang precisely at 7:00 p.m., Harrison stood waiting, impeccable in a tuxedo. His eyes widened slightly. Pamela, he said softly, you are radiant. I found myself blushing like a schoolgirl. The Claremont's marble foyer gleamed with understated luxury. As we entered, heads turned. I felt self-conscious until Harrison's hand brushed mine under the tablecloth and he whispered, just look at me. Let them wonder. We talked about music, medicine, and travel. His humor was dry, his intelligence effortless. Do you know why I chose cardiology, he asked between courses. Because the heart tells the truth, even when the mouth lies. It breaks, it heals, it remembers. It's the most human part of us. And which am I? I teased lightly, broken or healing. He smiled, eyes softening, resilient. You've spent a lifetime giving until empty. It's time someone gives back. I could have cried right there, but I didn't. Instead, I lifted my glass to him. To unexpected second chances. Later that night, as I sipped tea in my quiet kitchen, my phone vibrated again, not from Harrison, but Diana. Heard Dr. Wells had to leave Claremont early. Didn't realize you were dining there. We need to talk about your relationship with him. Breakfast, tomorrow. I didn't reply. But the next morning she appeared anyway, immaculate as always, holding overpriced coffee and a pink box of cranberry scones. Family, supporting family, she said, brightly settling at my table. The practiced smile couldn't disguise the calculation behind her eyes. I sipped my decaf slowly. How did you know I was at the Claremont? Oh, Atlanta's small. A colleague mentioned it. A colleague who also knew the moment Harrison left for an emergency. I raised an eyebrow. Her silence told me everything. Mom Hayes. She began reverting to the honeyed tone she used when pitching investors. I'm just trying to understand your relationship with Dr. Wells. It's not every day a world-renowned cardiologist becomes personally involved with a patient. Professionally, this could affect Meridian's interests, I finished for her. Let's not pretend otherwise. Her smile faltered. You must see how his endorsement could change everything for the Cardio Restore program. I see, I said quietly, that you're more interested in business than family. Mom Hayes, please. I'm trying to protect our family's reputation, yours included. I studied her carefully. Harrison mentioned Meridian's clinical trials were inconsistent, that perhaps more research is needed before marketing. Her composure cracked. He said that, among other things, I replied, setting my cup down. He also mentioned receiving 17 emails and 6 unsolicited invitations from a certain Meridian representative. I assume that would be you. Diana's face paled. You told him about me? He asked if my family knew who he was. I answered truthfully. She stood abruptly, coffee forgotten. Do you have any idea what that could do to my career? Do you have any idea, I countered softly, what your ambition has already done to this family? We stared at each other in silence until she exhaled sharply. I hope you know what you're doing, she said, finally, gathering her bag. Because you're walking into a very visible world with a very powerful man. After she left, I looked at the text that had arrived while she was talking. The Symphony Gala is this Saturday. Black tie, supporting cardiac research. Would you be my guest? Samuel can help with arrangements. My pulse quickened. Is this invitation personal or strategic? I typed. His reply came seconds later. Both, but mostly personal. Some matters are best addressed in person, and some company I simply enjoy too much to resist. That Saturday, Samuel arrived with an entire styling team and a velvet box containing emerald earrings. On loan, he assured me, though, Dr. Wells did say they might become a gift. If you find them pleasing, I did. When I descended the stairs, dressed in silk and borrowed jewels, Harrison's expression made every uncertainty dissolve. You take my breath away, he murmured, offering his arm. At the gala entrance, flashbulbs flared. I froze. I'm not used to this kind of attention, I whispered. Then let me absorb it for both of us, he said calmly. As cameras snapped, his arm slid protectively around my waist. Forgive the theatrics, he murmured. Sometimes a single photo clarifies complex relationships. Inside the city's elite mingled under chandeliers. Then came the inevitable voice behind me, Dr. Wells. What a surprise! Diana stood there glittering in gold, Philip awkward beside her. We didn't know you'd be attending with family, she added pointedly. Actually, Harrison said, his hand still at my back. I'm here with my date. The word hit like a cymbal crash. Diana blinked, stunned. Your date? Yes, he said easily. Pamela and I have been getting to know each other for some time. When I learned she was recovering from surgery, I thought it fitting we attend an event supporting cardiac research. Philip's voice faltered. Mom, you never mentioned you were dating Dr. Wells. There are many things I haven't mentioned, I replied evenly. Diana's smile tightened. How wonderful! Family connections becoming personal ones. Harrison's tone cooled slightly. We're not family, Mrs. Reynolds. My relationship with Pamela is personal, not professional. The color drained from her face. Before the silence could thicken, a glamorous woman in red approached. Harrison, darling. They're calling for you? And this must be Pamela. You're even lovelier than he described. I'm Catherine Winslow, Symphony Guild president, also his ex-wife. Ex-wife! I nearly choked, but she grasped my hands warmly. You must be quite special. Harrison never brings dates. As she whisked us toward the ballroom, I caught one last glimpse of Diana's expression, stunned, calculating, and furious. The ballroom shimmered with gold light and the low hum of strings tuning for the symphony. Catherine guided us to a front table filled with Atlanta's most prominent donors. You always sit near the money, Harrison, she teased, before leaning close to me. It's good to see him smiling again. Her warmth was disarming, genuine, without a trace of jealousy. When she drifted away to greet others, Harrison turned to me with a wry smile. Catherine has impeccable timing and no sense of boundaries, he said quietly. But she means well. As dinner began, he leaned closer. You handled Diana beautifully. She's used to steering conversations. You let her drive herself straight into a wall of her own ambition. I didn't do anything, I said modestly. Exactly. Sometimes silence is the most powerful answer. When the lights dimmed for Catherine's welcome speech, he reached under the table and took my hand. Let's make one thing clear, he murmured. Tonight isn't about optics or business. It's about celebrating courage, yours. The sincerity in his tone silenced the anxious flutter in my chest. After the orchestra's first piece, he stood and offered his hand. Would you honor me with a dance? I haven't danced in 20 years, I confessed. Then it's time you remembered how. The waltz began softly, and his arm found the small of my back, as if it belonged there. We moved together more smoothly than either of us expected, gliding through the crowd under crystal light. I felt my heart, the same heart that had almost failed, beat, steady and alive. You're trembling, he whispered. From nerves, I lied. From freedom, he corrected. Across the dance floor, I saw Philip and Diana watching. My son looked uncertain, almost lost. Diana's expression, however, was pure calculation, already planning her next move. Harrison noticed my glance. "She'll regroup," he said softly. "People like her always do." When the song ended, applause rippled through the room. He leaned close. "Come, let's get some air." On the terrace, Atlanta glittered beneath us. "You realize I said that by publicly declaring me your date, you've detonated a bomb in my family." He chuckled. "Good. Explosions clear the air. And besides, I told the truth." Before I could respond, the terrace door opened. Philip stood there, awkward and defensive. "Mom, can we talk?" "Now, please." Harrison's hand tightened slightly around mine before he released it. "I'll be nearby," he said quietly and stepped aside. Philip shifted on his feet. "I'm sorry about earlier. Diana, well, she can be intense, but you have to see how this looks. He's famous, powerful, and you're—" "I'm what I asked, gently, old, vulnerable. I didn't mean, I know what you meant. But here's what you need to understand, Philip. I've spent 18 years alone holding this family together while you built your career. I am not your charity project. I'm your mother, and I'm finally choosing something for myself." His expression softened. "Are you happy?" "For the first time in a long while." He nodded slowly. "Then maybe I should start getting used to that." Inside, the music changed, and Harrison appeared in the doorway. "Everything all right?" "Yes," I said, my voice steady. "Better than all right." As we drove home later, the city lights reflected in the Bentley's windows. Harrison reached across the seat, his fingers brushing mine. "You were magnificent tonight," he said. "You walked into a room designed to intimidate and left it captivated." I smiled, including my daughter-in-law. "Especially her," he said with a grin. When the car turned into my driveway, a strange light glowed through the living room window. "That's odd," I murmured. "I didn't leave anything on." Harrison's demeanor changed, instantly protective. "Stay here," he said to me. Then to Samuel Call. "Security if we're not back in 5 minutes." We approached the house cautiously, but the door opened before we reached it. My granddaughter Lily stood there wide-eyed. "Grandma." "Oh my God, you look amazing. Is this your doctor?" Relief flooded me so quickly I almost laughed. "Lily, what are you doing here?" She shrugged. "Mom texted me all this weird stuff about you and some famous doctor, so I wanted to see for myself." She looked Harrison up and down approvingly. "Good choice, Grandma." Despite myself, I laughed. Harrison extended his hand with perfect grace. "Pleasure to meet you, Lily. Your grandmother's spoken very highly of you." "So, are you like, dating?" she asked, flopping onto the sofa. I hesitated, but before I could answer, she said, "Cool. You deserve it. Mom and Dad can be kinda well, you know." Harrison smiled amused. Perceptive young lady. When Lily admitted she'd come by Uber, Harrison insisted Samuel drive her home. Before she left, she turned to him, eyes narrowed. "Just so you know, if you hurt her, I have hacker friends who can make your medical license disappear." Harrison laughed aloud. "I'll keep that in mind." When we were alone again, he took my hands. "You have remarkable descendants," he said, "and a remarkable heart." The porch light cast a soft halo around him as he leaned forward. "Pamela, I meant what I said tonight. This is the beginning, if you'll allow it to be." I felt tears sting my eyes. "I'd like that." He kissed me, then gently, reverently, the kind of kiss that felt like a promise. When the Bentley drove away, I stood on the porch, fingers pressed to my lips, realizing that somehow, at 67, I was starting over. 3 weeks passed after the gala, and my life felt reborn in small, quiet ways. Mornings were filled with sunlight and texts from Harrison, simple things like, "Good morning, Pamela. Did you sleep well? Remember your medication?" Afternoons brought walks in the garden, evenings, gentle dinners where conversation felt effortless. For years, my world had revolved around other people's schedules. Now, for the first time, I had one that revolved around me, and it felt like breathing after years underwater. Then one morning, my phone chimed with a message from Diana family dinner tonight. We need to discuss recent developments. I knew what that meant. An intervention. My son and his wife never invited me for family discussions unless something needed to be controlled. When I arrived that evening, Lily opened the door, her face lighting up. "Grandma, you look amazing," she said, hugging me tight. I smiled at her. She was the only one in that house whose love came without conditions. "Thank you, sweetheart," I said. "Where's your brother?" "Mom sent him to a friend's house. Said this was for adults." She rolled her eyes. Like that ever means anything good. In the patio light, Diana waited perfect, as always. Designer dress wineglass poised like a prop. Philip stood behind the bar mixing drinks he didn't need. "Mom," he said, smiling too brightly, "you look radiant." "Happiness agrees with me," I said. Diana gestured for me to sit. "We just want to talk," she began, tone dripping with false calm. "We're worried, Pamela. Everything's moving so fast. You've only just met Dr. Wells, and well after such a major surgery, emotions can be fragile." "I see," I said. "You're suggesting I'm delusional?" "Of course not," she replied smoothly. "But powerful men sometimes take advantage, intentionally or not. He has influence, and we care about you." "Care," I repeated softly. That's an interesting word for people who couldn't pick me up from the airport 3 weeks ago. Philip winced. "That was a mistake, Mom. We just didn't realize that I mattered enough." I interrupted. "That's been clear for years." Diana sighed, still in performance mode. "You've always been so supportive of this family. We don't want to see you hurt or used. Dr. Wells might have motives." I looked her straight in the eye. "You mean professional motives? Like your company's attempt to court him for months?" Her carefully composed face cracked. "He told you?" "He told me everything. The emails, the proposals, the events you tried to lure him to. 17 messages, if I recall." Her wineglass trembled slightly. "That was business. And this is personal," I said firmly. "He's made that clear. And so have I." Lily, perched nearby, spoke up before her parents could respond. "You guys sound ridiculous. Grandma's not some gullible old lady. She's smarter than both of you put together." Lily Diana snapped. "No?" I said, raising a hand. "She's right. For years I've made myself small to fit into this family's idea of convenience. I babysat your children, helped buy this house, kept quiet when I should have spoken up. But I'm done disappearing." Philip looked wounded. "Mom, that's not fair. We've always had your best interests." "Best interests?" I smiled sadly. "No, you've had expectations. There's a difference." Diana leaned forward, her tone softening to sugar. "Pamela, think about what you're risking. Harrison's a public figure. His connection to our family could be complicated." "For whom?" I asked. "You or your company?" Her lips parted, but no sound came out. The truth sat between us like a mirror neither wanted to look into. At that moment, my phone vibrated. Harrison's name lit the screen. "Thinking of you this evening. Call when you're free." I smiled involuntarily, which only made Diana's eyes narrow. "Is that him?" she asked. "Yes," I said simply. Lily grinned. "Cool. Tell him hi for me." Diana's voice hardened. "Pamela, please, don't make this difficult. One introduction. Just one meeting between Harrison and Meridian could mean everything for our company's future." "And what about my future?" I asked. "Does that matter at all?" "Of course it does," she said, though her eyes told another story. "Then let me make it clear," I said quietly. "My relationship with Harrison isn't for sale." For a long moment, no one spoke. Even the sound of the fountain in their garden seemed to fade. Finally, Philip sighed. "We just don't want to lose you, Mom." You won't, I said softly. But you'll need to meet the version of me you've ignored, the one who chooses herself. The tension broke with Lily's teenage bluntness. So, are we eating or just arguing all night? Diana blinked, then forced a brittle smile. Dinner's in the oven. As I helped set the table, Philip touched my arm. Are you really happy? He whispered. I am, I said, smiling. And that's what scares you both, isn't it? Later that night, as Samuel drove me home, I called Harrison. Family dinner, he asked, knowingly. More like a courtroom hearing, I said. But I survived. I never doubted you, he replied, warmth filling his tone. You've got the strongest heart I've ever seen, mechanically and otherwise. When we reached my house, I noticed something glowing softly on the porch, hundreds of flickering lights. For a moment, I thought my vision was playing tricks, until I realized they were candles, LEDs lining the steps like stars fallen from the sky. And there he was, waiting at the top, hands clasped behind his back, that familiar half-smile, tugging at his lips. Harrison? I said, stepping from the car, my voice trembling. What is this? He offered his hand. A celebration of courage, of second chances, of a woman who finally realized her worth. Emotion caught in my throat. You shouldn't have. Oh, but I should, he said, softly drawing me closer. Because you've spent your whole life giving. Tonight I wanted to give something back. In the warm candlelight, surrounded by the scent of jasmine and the quiet hum of summer, he kissed me again, gentle, certain, real. And for the first time in decades, I didn't feel like someone's mother or caregiver or afterthought. I felt it alive. Summer turned to autumn, and with it came a sense of calm I hadn't known since my 20s. My scars had healed into faint lines, reminders of what I'd survived, and my heart, once a fragile instrument of worry, now beat steady, fearless. Harrison and I settled into a rhythm of small joys, Sunday breakfasts on the porch, late-night symphonies on vinyl handwritten notes slipped into the pages of the novels he borrowed. He never once treated me like a patient. He treated me like a partner, an equal. And for a woman who'd spent decades being taken for granted, that was the most healing medicine of all. But peace, like everything valuable, always attracts noise. One crisp October morning, Harrison appeared on my doorstep. Earlier than usual. He was still in scrubs, hair slightly disheveled, eyes shadowed but bright. I couldn't wait, he said, simply holding up 2 cups of coffee. Figured we might share sunrise. We sat on the porch steps as the first light spilled across the garden. There's something I need to tell you, he began. My pulse quickened, but his tone was steady, almost gentle. I've been offered a position with the International Cardiac Research Foundation in Geneva. It's monumental, Pamela. But it would mean relocating for at least a year. The words hung between us like mist. Geneva, I repeated softly. I haven't accepted yet, he said quickly, because of you. I looked out at the morning light filtering through the trees. You've spent your life saving people. You can't stop now because of me. He reached for my hand. You've already changed how I think about what saving people really means. I squeezed his fingers. Then, let me be proud of you, not the reason you hesitate. For a long time, neither of us spoke. The air carried the smell of rain and jasmine. Then, quietly, he said, "Come with me." I blinked. To Switzerland, he smiled faintly. Why not? You've rebuilt once already. There's nothing left tying you here, except ghosts. He was right. The house I'd shared with my late husband was full of memories, but also silence. My son and Diana visited only for appearances. The neighborhood had changed. The people I'd known were gone or fading. Still leaving terrified me. I wouldn't know where to start, I admitted. Start here, he said, placing his hand over my heart. You already know how. 2 weeks later, I stood in that same garden, surrounded by moving boxes and uncertainty. Lily helped me pack, chattering about college and independence. I'm proud of you, Grandma, she said as we taped the last box. Most people your age are scared to start over. You're like Taylor Swift, but with better advice. I laughed. I'll take that as a compliment. Philip came by that evening. He stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets, eyes full of things he didn't know how to say. So, Switzerland, he said finally. That's far. Distance isn't the same as absence, I replied. You can visit? I will, he said, voice low. And, Mom, I'm sorry. I stepped forward and hugged him. I know. Diana didn't come, though. I'd sent her a message. The silence spoke volumes, but I'd stopped measuring my worth by her approval. The day of departure, Harrison met me at the airport, the same airport where weeks earlier I'd stood alone with shaking hands and no one waiting. This time, I wasn't invisible. People glanced at us as we walked together, and for once, I didn't shrink from attention. When the plane lifted above the clouds, he turned to me. Do you regret it? I looked out at the expanse of white and blue, my reflection faint in the window. Not for a second. Life in Geneva was like stepping into a painting. Crisp air, winding cobblestone streets, the faint echo of bells from the lakefront cathedral. Harrison worked long hours, but we always ended the day together, dinners on balconies, long walks by the Rhone, laughter echoing between buildings older than our country. He never made grand promises, but one snowy evening in December, as we walked past the Christmas market, he stopped, brushed snowflakes from my hair, and said, Pamela, you taught me something. Medicine never did. That healing doesn't stop when the body recovers. It begins when the heart learns to trust again. Tears blurred my vision, and you taught me it's never too late to love again. He smiled, reaching into his coat pocket. Then maybe this belongs to you. The ring was simple, an emerald stone, the same color as the gown from that first dinner, framed by 2 small diamonds. No pressure, no deadline, he said softly. Just a promise to keep choosing each other day by day. I whispered yes before my mind even caught up with my heart. Months later, the story of our engagement spread back home. Headlines called it The Surgeon and the Survivor. Diana sent a curt text. Congratulations. I hope this doesn't affect your estate planning. I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my tea. In the end, Harrison and I married quietly by the lake, with only Lily Phillip and a handful of close friends in attendance. When the minister pronounced us husband and wife, the air shimmered with sunlight off the water. Lily clapped first. About time, she said. Philip hugged me afterward, tears in his eyes. You look happy, Mom. I am, I told him. But happiness isn't luck, sweetheart. It's choice. Now, when I walk along the cobblestones toward our apartment, I think about that woman I used to be, the one sitting alone in an airport terminal, clutching her suitcase and mistaking loneliness for loyalty. She died the day she chose to stop waiting for others to save her. The woman who took her place, the one who learned to love without apology, she's still here. And every time Harrison takes my hand as we cross a street or sit, watching the sunset over Lake Geneva, I'm reminded of one simple truth. Sometimes the people who leave you waiting teach you how to walk on your own. And sometimes, when you finally do love, finds you exactly where you stopped expecting it.